Hi everybody, you are watching ScanAgile Public Sector Track. My name is Mirette Kangas. We are ready to continue. Our next speaker, she is an IT professional who has been involved in all areas of software industry during last plus 20 years. Last 8 years, she has worked on a variety of public sector projects. She told me that she has experience when working with the public sector. It's really rewarding. And like she said, feeling that there is a real impact what you do and work is meaningful. Very beautifully said. Now we will hear her lessons learned from public sector projects and challenges she has faced. She has done feedback loop, and we are lucky now to hear and learn from these advices. Please welcome Technical Project Manager from Gofore, Jaana Majakangas.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks for the warm words.
You're welcome.
Okay, so maybe we can then get started.
Yes.
Hold on, just what? So, okay, sorry again. Wrong. Should be seeing the right slide. Hold on, what happened? Am I right?
Yes, now we can see your slides. Okay, break a leg.
No. Sorry. Now, what now happened?
We can see your slide. Now,
yeah,
now
you can see, but I can't see what I want to see.
Okay.
Let's make it like this. So, sorry for the mess up.
No
here.
worries. No worries.
Again. Okay.
Okay.
Now you can see the full screen, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. So, sorry again for the mess up.
Okay. See you soon.
You couldn't imagine I've been working with these for over 20 years, but who cares? So, in this context or in this speech, I'll focus on the context in the actual IT software projects. So that's what I've been doing, like Mirette said, for the last 8 years in Gofore, and so there are a lot of things we have done and lessons we have learned, and I would like to share some of those with you today. So first, let's talk first about what are the characteristics of a public sector project, especially software projects that we do. And I'm not saying that these are characteristics for public sector project itself, but there are probably some issues you can recognize also from the private sector projects as well. In public sector, the procurement process is one of the biggest things that defines the actual starting of the project. So if you have a bit bigger project, you need to do a procurement process before you can actually start doing anything. And in the background requirements and information that you usually get during this procurement process, it's pretty high level. So as Olli-Pekka was just talking about these complex systems and that interact with each other, that's something that you usually don't see in this phase. So it's just the complexity reveals itself during the actual project. And sometimes the requirements that for the system that you are building are gathered by another consultant or within the organization by people who are experts in the domain, but not necessarily on the technical side. And there is a high level focus on the process, and I have to say, usually on the paper process when you're digitalizing a service. So there's this old process that is using paper, and now that you're doing a digital service, then the process is not the same. And one thing that defines these public sector projects is that the procurement process, it may take a while. I've seen procurements that have taken years, as there has been one tendering, and then there has been this dispute, and another tendering, and then the final selection, and after that you can then get started. So that's something that you have to understand, especially when you then start to look at the requirements that have been in the beginning of that procurement. They might not be valid anymore when the actual project is about to start. And second thing that is sort of or affects these public sector projects is that there's this yearly cycle that the funding usually follows. So in the beginning of the year, you have this budget that you have prepared during the previous year, and then you can start doing. And when the year ends, your budget vanishes. That's usually the case. And especially now in the COVID-19 times, we have seen the budget cuts, drastic cuts, several of them. And that is something that probably will affect the budgets of next year as well. So we are in a situation where the things you can do next year is a bit uncertain at this point. And at some of these services and public sector projects, there are fundings that depend on the political decisions. I mean, you have seen the discussions, especially now in the COVID-19 times, about how to get more people employed and how to improve employment services, for example. And as you hear those discussions, you can see that, okay, there probably will be some political decisions on how the money is spent and distributed, and what can be done with it. And that's something that the actual vendors of those systems have to be pretty agile to fit the timetables that are discussed on the public currently. And of course, as the political decisions are done, there usually are some legal requirements that come out of those. So those may set some hard deadlines. Your system has to be ready if the law is taking effect on 1st of September, for example. So those are things that usually are not valid in the private sector projects. But I guess in this context, the biggest question is that, is it actually agile? And what does agility mean in a public sector project itself? So usually in the procurement process, you can see that there are requirements for the supplier to provide agile roles into the project. But is the meaning and the requirements for agility really understood beforehand by the public sector organization? And that requires quite a lot of work also from the customer side. So are they prepared for that? That's something you don't really know. And neither do you know the state of the agile knowledge on the customer. So there might be things that they use fluently, all the agile terms, but do they actually understand what they mean? But what is good in these public sector projects is that the customer is really good usually on the substance. They know their own processes, and they know how the systems work and what the legal requirements are. So there's a lot of potential to learn and to be agile if the organization itself has support for that. So it's sort of, I would say that it's easy to work with public sector experts, as they are really experts on those public sector issues or their substance. So what are the key learnings that we have seen seen during these or that I've seen and what my colleagues have shared with me during the last 8 years. So I guess the key question to ask is, why do we do this in agile way? Is there understanding? What is the reasoning for using agile methods in a project? Is it to build quality products or services faster? Is it to get faster feedback? Is it to react to changes as we've seen? What is it? So that's the important question to know. And I've seen that even though I've worked with several different public sector organizations during my 8 years, so projects do vary, but the problems or the challenges remain the same. So the first key thing is that the agile mindset starts from the management. And really understanding what agile mindset means is the key. So it's not enough if you know the hype words that are being available everywhere or visible everywhere in the media or anything. So there has to be really understanding what is the philosophy behind agile thinking. And unfortunately, this is something that usually doesn't go like this. I mean, we hear that, like I said, that they require suppliers to be agile, but they really don't know what it requires from their own organization. So to be able to give guidance for the organization itself, the management should really understand what is it is. And like Olli-Pekka said, there are things that we need to unlearn and have willingness to learn again new things, break those silos and start thinking in systems rather than in their own backyard, just those processes that affect my thinking. And the hype words are not just enough. So you really have to understand. And as the organizations are usually pretty hierarchical, so it goes from top down. So if the top management understands, then it is easy to spread the word on agility downwards the organization. But if you are the only one in the lower levels than trying to do agile, then you probably don't have the means to do things right. And like I said, Olli-Pekka mentioned this as well. So trust and openness and psychological safety are the key issues here. So you have to be able to trust each other and see other perspectives and feel safe to try things and fail sometimes, but then try again. I promised to tell you some examples. So we had one project here which started off, well, you can say wrong from the beginning. So there had been some trouble beforehand with another supplier, and there was a project that then started fixing those issues with that other supplier, and of course you can see when there are changes to the content and no really good prioritization on things to do. What are the most important things to do? We really didn't have any of that. So you can see that it was heading to a disaster. So we didn't have a proper PO, product owner. There was somebody trying to be in that role, but she didn't really have any authority to do that role properly. So it actually escalated so that I got called to a meeting with the CEO of that company or the public sector office, and they were asking me that how can we as a supplier demand for a product owner, and why do we do that, and why can't we just finish the project and deliver and get the thing into the production. And I tried to explain that, okay, reasons for demanding a product owner is this, and we really need some guidance from you and from the substance. What are the most important things to do? And on the other hand, there wasn't really a piece for the team to do what they do best, so write software. So all of this discussion was held with the CEO, and we agreed that okay, we will finish the project within this time frame and with this budget, and then and get it into production, but we need the product owner and we need the piece for the team with the product owner to deliver. And that was then understood what it means, and they agreed to the terms that we demanded, and together we agreed that yeah, we can take it this project to the end, and that's what happened. But it shouldn't have escalated that far, never. So that those things should have been solved beforehand. But as you can see, when the management level understood what was the reasons behind demanding, for example, product owner, then there was good solutions for that. So that's why it's really important that the management level understands properly. Okay, key roles, right roles to the right people. So there are a few key roles that need to be assigned, and that is something that also requires understanding on agility. So before you can assign the right people to the right roles, you really need to understand what are the requirements and responsibilities for that role. And understanding those requirements and responsibilities is the agile management and agile transformation that can be done in the organization. And you never should glue the agile roles on top of the existing organizations or hierarchy. That's something where you go always off. I mean, as these organizations are a bit hierarchical, there's hard to understand what are the differences between agile roles and the actual organization roles. There's an education that can be given, and the suppliers can of course educate and help the customers in assigning these roles. But you also have to understand the requirements and especially the amount of time that you need to work on these roles. I mean, I've seen organizations where you can't even be or you have probably seen a situation where there's a new project starting and there's a new customer person coming into the room and saying, hey, my name is Pekka and I was told that I'm the PO, product owner of this project, and that should always get your lights blinking and okay, you need education, since that role probably doesn't have enough time to work as a product owner, which is a full-time job. So, and then there's also some bureaucracy maybe related to these roles and assigning these roles. I mean, for example, being able to act as a business owner or a substance owner, you probably will need they will need a permission from their supervisor to spend some amount of their work time for that role. So that's something that you need to also understand, that there might be these kind of restrictions. Of course, it's the agile management that can play a part in this if you then make it easier for the customer roles to have enough time to work. So that's when the management comes along as well. And as an example of this, we had a pretty big project where we started using this large scale agile framework, and it had a lot of different roles that needed to be assigned. And of course, they were assigned based on some of those organization roles as well. And then I heard complaints from a product management that I don't know what to tell the product owner to do, as I don't understand what they do, and I can't tell her what to do. And I was saying that it's not your job to tell her what to do. It's not your job to prioritize. And your product business owners were struggling what tasks to give to the Scrum masters and like that. So you can see that it's not the way to do things. And that was changed later. And like I said, you really need to educate the key roles so that everybody understands what are the requirements and how they can work best in their own roles. And I've seen that we do have a lot of potential in the public sector side to really work on these roles, and they are eager to learn. So we should support that learning by the suppliers, of course, to give support, but by the organization as well. Clear product ownership and roadmap. You can't really emphasize this enough, so that you really, it's easier for everybody to work when you have a clear target. And okay, it might be difficult to in a public sector organization to say what is the actual product, but it's the system that you are building, and you always want to have the ownership of that product on the customer side. And when you have a clear vision and roadmap, then it's easier for everybody to see the target and to work together to that. And probably one of the biggest things is that you need to have the ability and the power to make decisions. And that includes every single role that you have there. So for example, in that disaster project that I was earlier describing, we had this person that was acting sort of as a product owner, but she really didn't have the power to act as a product owner, and she was prioritizing the backlog, but then there was somebody questioning the decisions. But it's the management level and the agile transformation to make it so that the persons working on those roles actually do have the power to make decisions. And the reasoning for not giving the before mentioned product owner the ability to make decisions was that she was on a fixed term contract, which has nothing to do with the actual development process. But again, that was luckily changed later, so now things are in order, and this is one of the examples of one of those persons that has really understood the meaning of agility and how to work as an agile product owner. So how do you get started on these projects to avoid these pitfalls that I was describing? Education and teamwork. You can't emphasize enough what it is that you do to educate and to build a team. Team is everything here, and as a team, I mean both the suppliers and also the representatives of the customer. So they all together build a team that can then work together and create amazing results on the project that they are doing. And that, like Olli-Pekka said, is building a team, is breaking the silos. So it may take some effort in the beginning, but that's something that you really should invest in. So it will pay back later, that's for sure. And then clearly understanding why are you doing things in agile way. You are building things in smaller pieces, trying to implement the important things first, and then getting faster feedback, which is something that is really, really important in these public sector projects, especially if you are building something for the whole public, everybody out there. So it's really important that you do things in a customer-oriented way, a user-oriented way, for example. And it's easier to make things if they are clear and you really understand the target that you are working. So building a team is really, really important. I think that implementing agile methodology is also implementing a cultural change. So it will bring changes to the actual organization culture. And we've seen those already during this COVID-19 time, so that you're probably moving from, or did move from completely to remote working model during one night. And that has changed the way things are done. And I think this situation emphasizes this trust and transparency even more than ever. So to be able to do things with this fully remote model that we had in the spring, you really, really need to trust all the people in the projects and hear their perspectives and honor their views, and not get stuck into the first solution that you think is the right one, like Olli-Pekka said. And transparency is also really important during these times, so that everybody has the best knowledge available. There are things like budgets are available. You know where the project is going. It doesn't come as a surprise to anybody. And of course, you need to really listen and communicate with the whole team, but also outside the team. And you can see that it takes small steps, but then this change can really start from one person. And I do have a couple of examples of these persons. Like I said, this disaster project product owner is one of those that actually grew into the role, and now is really next project that we have had, she has already done things beforehand, and she knows the backlogs and has prepared those really well. And another example is a person that was assigned as a product owner into one big project, and she was working there, learning for a while. Then she was transferred into another assignment, but came back into that same big program again, and now she's working as a product manager there, and she's the best. She knows how to make decisions. She understands and he listens to what the actual implementation level is telling, what teams are telling, and she works really well as a sort of messenger between the implementation and the management levels, and it's such a joy to work with her nowadays. So I guess that I'm saying that implementing and learning these from these lessons that we have seen, trust and transparency are probably the biggest things, and the building a team is another really important step. But I guess that was all that I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Jaana. It's obvious that you really know this new way of working, and you have a lot of experience, and thank you so much for sharing also these your tips for all of us what to do. Now all of you are following the ScanAgile public sector track. You can ask questions from Jaana. Please write down to the chat box. I will start with the question. You have been working a lot with the management and top leaders as well. So how not to help them to create agile mindset? How not? Yeah.
How not to? That's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, I think that it all starts from the trust that you within the organization, but also with the suppliers and the other kind of experts that you see and you interact. If you just trust and hear their opinion, and they do have, for example, the suppliers, they have the actual knowledge on those methodologies, and if you just sort of openly discuss with that level, then you can get some ideas. I mean, I can't go there and say that you need to do this and this like that, as I don't know their organization and how they are organized. So it's more important that you sort of get the philosophy of agility and then try to implement that in your own organization. There's no someone who can come from outside and say that this is the way you have to do it, but you have to actually try to learn from the existing organization and then try to take the best agile methods in use in that fit that organization.
Oh, thanks. There is a nice comment from Mari Alho that it's very nice to hear about the learning experiences and growth paths of people in their product owner or product management roles. That gives hopes. Sometimes you are rushed into the project and role, and management is impotent to see results. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know I know the situation, and it's sort of, I mean, it's not an easy role to get into. You really, there are a lot of expectations for those roles from the team, the actual implementation team, but also from the management, like Mari said, and it's kind of well, to be open and willing to learn. So the willingness to learn and listen, I guess those are the key things that you need to do, and that's the way you can show both the management, but also for the teams to sort of the progress that you are doing.
Well, I would be curious to know what you think and how would you advise public sector players, like mentioned at the presentation and also here at the comment, how to help customer in the situation when it seems like that he or she doesn't understand the roles or agile culture, etc. How to help customer in that situation? Anyway, she or he is billing the bills, but how to rise up these questions?
Well, if I knew the answer, we probably wouldn't have these problems. But I mean, that's exactly the role that I realized at one point that I would like to do, to be able to discuss with the management level and try to sort of explain why it's really important to learn those. I mean, those roles and understand what they are doing and what are the benefits for those roles for the organization. But at that point, when it's just another consultant coming here and asking money, and you need to pay the bills and you don't get anything from them. So it's really difficult situation. But I mean, you just, I guess that it's probably the message would be that you don't have to try everything at once. Take small steps, try something and learn from that, and see how the actual organization can benefit most from the agile methods. You don't have to change everything at once. Just take small steps. Start with one program or project, and then when you realize that it's working, then you can do another and take the use of the good things and also learn from the bad things that you see during the project.
Please, if you have questions to Jaana, write down chat window. So far, I don't see more questions if my chat is working correctly. But anyway, we can wait for them. And I have another one for you.
Yeah, I think that Henry was asking here that in the SAFE example,
oh, yes.
you get to train the people, those people. Well, in that case, we did all go to a training from outside, but then we were hoping that we could sort of try to sort of adjust the SAFE into that project, and that was something that wasn't really happening. But we did work in that model for a while, and then we made some changes based on the discussions coming from the implementation level. So there has been some trainings outside the program and inside the program both.
Well, you have a lot of experience working with the public sector players and using all the agile methods and thinking how the behavior change, etc. What do you think? What do you like to learn in the long run? What's the next thing you are going to learn? Yeah.
Me. I wrote down to myself this system thinking that Ulrika was talking about. I've come across it times before, but now I really was thinking that this is something that I need to dig deeper into, and that's something I sort of want to and see how we can put that also into effect in all of these big programs that we are doing. And as I saw the diagram in Olli-Pekka showed, and looks like our project. So that's something that I need to look into. And one thing I really want to say about these public sector players and the people working on these, I mean, I've worked with hundreds of people in the public sector organizations, and I've enjoyed working with every single one of them. They are really experts on the matter, and they are really eager to learn if they are just given the chance. So that's one of the key messages as well, that they want to learn.
Thank you. You can continue. Anyway, I think that we don't have any more questions. And after the presentation, you can meet Jaana at the floor 1. There is a speakers table, so you can share ideas more. Thank you, Jaana, for joining us and sharing your knowledge and experiences.